Spoiler in time. I'm Tom Merritt, and let me spoil things for you. That's Brian Brushwood.
Yeah. No, that's fine. You can just
Spoiler
stare at
alert.
me from across the
He's
room.
Brian
I'm fine.
Brushwood.
It's cool. It's cool.
In case you didn't know,
I'm not threatened by it.
don't be threatened. Don't be afraid, and don't complain that you got spoiled on something because it's called Spoiler in Time for a reason.
Touche, sir. Hey,
Today
man.
we are going to spoil why Clara Oswald had 9 versions of herself.
Yep.
That's at the very end of the show for Brian's benefit. He hasn't watched Doctor Who. I've watched episode 4, season 4 of The Shield. We've both watched episode 3 of Marco Polo, but we are going to start by sharing our spoilery impressions of the interview.
Yeah, man. Spoiler alert. I kind of loved it. It was exactly what I hoped it would be, but slightly better. I mean, comedy movies, it's easy to cut them. I don't know. They're a bit like porn in that you're just waiting for the funny to show up. The story is sort of this loose.
You know, when I watch porn, I'm always waiting for the funny to
Well,
show.
no. Yeah, well, it's
I couldn't pass that.
funny
Sorry.
instead of boobies, right?
Yeah, right.
And then, but in that regard, it delivered, man. I thought that I think James Franco is one of the most talented actors I've seen in my lifetime. I think I watched him in Spring Breakers, and his bizarre, weird, hip hop, dope dealing, gangster thug, gun sucking, weird ass psychosexual guy was phenomenal. And to see him go from that to the uber cheesy Entertainment Tonight style anchor, he's super talented. I think he's fantastic.
I love James Franco and Seth Rogen. I think they're both talented. I think they're both hilarious. I have liked other James Franco, Seth Rogen vehicles better than this one. What's funny is when you said it was a skeleton of a movie built to hang 5 or 6 gut-busting laughs, I was like 100% agree. It's why I didn't like it.
Oh, really?
So we're coming at it with the same opinion from different perspectives, which is you're like, all I needed was 5 or 6 gut-busting laughs, and that's what I got, so I'm happy. I don't know what I came at it with. I probably wouldn't have seen this movie if it hadn't been the result of threats. And I was like, yeah, there were some funny parts, but mostly I was kind of bored.
I'll tell you the moments that made it worth it for me, and you can tell me if you disagree. I loved the bromance seduction of Kim Jong-un against James Franco's, like the whole talking about like how lonely and great his life is, and how the intimacy. I thought all that was great. I
wonder how much of Dennis Rodman's background information they were able to get.
Oh my God! Yes, no. Like you could tell, like this was all inspired by the Dennis Rodman affair. I think the finger biting escalation scene was amazing. I weirdly. I'm juvenile, I know, but the whole like shoving the package up his butt scene I thought was very funny.
For physical comedy, it's a well done bit.
Well,
I'm not gonna lie, like that was one of the funnier parts of the movie. Not for everyone, I get it.
No. I normally I'm not a fan of that kind of I'm not a fan of that kind of lowbrow comedy. However, the fact that they were able to make it intimate, where it's like the CIA operative saying like, "Trust me, the tip is the hardest part," like you know where. I thought all of that was very funny. The finger biting scene I think I already said was amazing. Even the showdown where James Franco's trying to make Kim Jong-un cry live on television, as ridiculous as it was, I really enjoyed. And the fact that he was able to start singing Katy Perry and make him cry, I thought it was awesome.
There were some really funny moments, I guess, and that's what I want to rush to believe, you know, because there will be some people who will just agree with me. That was a piece of crap. Fine, whatever. I don't think it was a piece of crap, but that's fine if you thought it was. There are people who are like, oh, you just don't like it because you wanted some highfalutin movie with thinkins, and that is actually not my criticism of the movie. It is lowbrow comedy, avowedly so, and Seth Rogen and James Franco do a great job at that. And I think the hiding the package scene is a great example of that. I just felt like there were long parts in between that just didn't have anything in them, lowbrow, highbrow, or otherwise. I wasn't expecting the movie to be some kind of elevated commentary on politics, which is why I think it's so hilarious that this was the movie that supposedly attackers were trying to stop from being released, because it's not really any kind of social commentary. It's just a dumb film. It's a dumb comedy, and there's a place for that. I don't have a problem with that. I just didn't think this was the best dumb comedy I've seen.
Fair enough. However, it's I don't know. I feel like it was. I'm trying to figure a not crude way to say this, but I don't think there is. It's like it's if comedies is sex with your girlfriend / wife. This was sex with your girlfriend / wife dressed as North Korea, which made it a little more exciting and exotic. I don't know if that translates at all.
I get where you're going. Like,
I'm saying this is all familiar territory. It's characters we know.
You might be a little bored with these jokes, but we dressed them up as an evil dictator
dressed up
from
a little
North Korea.
bit, and they made it a little more electric with the way they were dressed up. Oh, and by the way, in the chat room, they're pointing out the whole like Eminem's coming out as gay thing. Hilarious. I thought that was amazing.
That stole the show, right? Like
yes.
That bit was fantastic. Where he's just like, come on, I've been hiding in plain sight.
Yeah.
The publicist freaking
sort
out.
of laid out there right in front of me. I'm surprised you guys haven't figured it out before now.
There were some great bits. Believe me, I don't want to discount that. I just felt like some movies will keep you going from great bit to great bit a little better. This one, I felt like I was checking my laptop and playing with my new tablet and stuff. It was just, it didn't keep me interested the whole way.
I also liked the buildup of them going to the armory and showing all the items and then just throwing that away just to show them awkwardly humping in the middle. I don't know. It's it's not quite a Harold and Kumar go to White Castle, if I can use it.
It wasn't elevated to the intellectual level of a Harold and Kumar, say.
Correct, but you know what? I'm proud that this is how America is represented to the world in international affairs.
Yeah, notice that they only released it in U.S. and Canada.
Oh, okay, good enough.
You know why. All right, let's move along to Marco Polo episode 3. Many people, although one person says episode 6, but many people say, oh, you got to get to episode 3 because after episode 3 is when things take off. I feel like I was nudged a little farther down the road on episode 3. I don't know if things have quite taken off yet, except for that ending.
Well, here's the thing. I felt like the ending was an obvious cheap fake out that's going to yield nothing. It's not like we expect in episode 4 to see Marco Polo dying of venom or whatever.
Whoa. We're not spoiling episode 4, Brian. He doesn't die?
I'm assuming. I don't know. But it's okay.
He's dead, right?
First of all,
no more Marco Polo for the rest of this series.
It's like there's a reason the series isn't called The Surviving Friends of Marco Polo.
I thought we talked about this before the show. It's like the Dread Pirate Roberts, a new Marco Polo.
Somebody else becomes Marco Polo. Here's the weird part was when people told us, like after, episode 3, that's where it all changes. I expected a big twist and we didn't get that, right? Instead, what we got was the finishing of setting up the table for everything. Like as awkward, as painfully awkward as the setup has been for everything, at least now we're at a place where I generally get all the characters, right?
Yeah.
I get, Kublai Khan. I get that his son is too influenced by erudite Chinese ideals. I get that Marco Polo was given by his father and doesn't necessarily like where he is, but he accepts where he is and understands what his roles are. I get that the hot chick that Marco Polo's banging is supposed to be virginal and whatever, and it's delicate that they're banging.
He's got a crush. I mean, we've got a classic love triangle, right? He's got a crush on the cheerleader, but she's a blue princess. He can't have her.
Right.
And yet there's, the hot goth girl who wrestles people that he's able to get it on with. And so now we're set up for hilarious
I will say this much. That was a hot-ass wrestling scene. I'm not going to lie. Like that got me a little bit wound up. That was pretty good.
Well, and you've also done a good setup there where you got the hot ass wrestling scene, and then next thing you know, he's at dinner where they're like, "Oh yeah, she's a virgin. She will only ever give her."
And
her
he's a little bit like,
and he's like,
right.
"Oh, that's your daughter." Okay.
Yeah. Right.
So we're set up for some kind of future conflict there, right? I mean, that's interesting. That's good storytelling. I like that. So I'm with you. Like episode 3 does feel like, okay, I've gotten to know these characters finally. I understand their motivations. The table is finally set for things to begin to actually happen.
Yeah, man, it's weird. Like, I feel like they've done everything wrong the first 3 episodes, but despite that, it's so gorgeous. The cinematography is so good. Despite how clumsily all the pieces are set, at this point, the pieces are set. I think I'm in, right? Is that where you are?
I have been nudged into inness. I am teetering a little. I could be pushed back out quite easily, but apparently everyone says like, no, it doesn't get worse. It only gets better. And if that's true, I think I'll keep going.
Yeah, I think I will as well. It's pretty. It's pretty to watch. They certainly show a lot of... do you know what I kind of like? And this is going to be a weird sideways thing. I like the very natural bodies of all the prostitutes. I'm sorry that this is what I'm saying. But it's like they
it's
look
like a soap commercial.
They look like real people, right? It's like, weirdly, the sex scenes very often are not sexy at all, and I kind of adore that about it. Unlike Game of Thrones, where it's like they go out of the way to take a boring speech about politics in Westeros and throw boobies and lesbian making out or whatever. In this case, it's like it's very practical, and I really appreciate that they did it that way.
It's period appropriate. No, I do feel like that was the one but that's the one storyline that I'm not quite sure where it's going yet, not in a bad way, which is the girl who was not selected by the Empress.
Trying to be a consort, yeah.
And then was discovered in bed with the Emperor. And okay, where's that going to go? Like, I'm not quite sure. I don't have my finger put on that one.
There was also, what was the point of the scene that there was like the little girl dancing around, and then the Chancellor, the guy who is apparently running China, is like, hey, what are you doing? He's like, playing. You're like, okay, go about. Like, what was that about?
I think that's about control, right? He wants to control everything. She is an inconvenient truth for him. And so I think she is spying on him for her mother, and he's not quite sure whether
to trust her or what the story is.
Yeah, like, and the fact that she's got her mom's shoes on, I think was supposed to be symbolic of her walking in her mother's shoes, so to speak.
All right. FC says that the little girl is Maylin's daughter. Maylin is the consort, is that right?
Yeah, she's the naked fighter.
Yeah, naked fighter. That's
not wrestler,
her name.
kung fu fighter.
Right on. I'll tell you what, like it's good enough.
It is.
Man, I wish I could give a better endorsement than it's good enough.
I would say it's good enough without not trying to understate, not trying to damn with faint praise. It is exactly a specific and accurate definition of my feelings.
Yeah, I wish I could at this point give a ringing endorsement, but that's where I'm at right now. However, from what everyone tells us, that 4 episodes later we're going to be freaking out talking about how great it is. There are brief moments that I liked a lot. I like the battle with his brother. I even like this episode, Kublai Khan like really wrestling with the fact that he slayed his brother and needing to be reinforced that this was the right thing to do.
Also, a lot of attention to the under-discussed problem of gout in Khan's China.
Man, I will say this for the actor playing Kublai Khan. I really dig the way he brings a physicality to his character, where it's like you could tell he's fat and gouty and everything hurts, but he's also the emperor of the MFing world and just waddles like a king. And I don't know,
channeling that gout pain in a way that's making him an effective ruler.
In a very believable way. I thought that was really good.
All right, let's move on to The Shield, episode 4, season 4, Doghouse. This is the episode where we finally figure out what Aceveda is going to be doing this season. He's been sort of absent other than being like, hey, I'm still the captain here for one more day. Oh, I guess I'm not, so I'm going to be entirely absent for an episode. But 2 things happen. One is his plot point is introduced where he starts to put some pressure on Monica, the new captain, to play ball with him on asset forfeitures, so that he's saying, we'll just make sure that the PR is good with the neighborhood. But that's going to cause a conflict and there's going to be leverage. And now Monica's plan isn't as pure as it had been before. And she was very pure in saying, no, I don't care if it's bad PR. We're taking the house from this woman in the previous episode. Also, we got Aceveda's new prostitute friend that's going to help him get over his rape issues. That came from season 3.
Is this the episode where they first introduce her and they introduce their relationship?
Yeah, he meets her at the bar and then he goes to her house. He grabs her by the arm. She says that hurts. And then she lays down the rules like, you can slap me, but you can't hit me and all that stuff.
Yeah, this is probably not a surprise to you. This relationship continues and some interesting nuances occur. And you're very right in that you figured out instantly that this strange relationship is part of his healing process, is part of him assuming some control over the experience that happened to him.
Yeah, and it's funny because they put in the previously on the scene of him with the guy who forces him to
Who rapes him?
You know,
You can say it.
Engage in a sexual act.
Rapes him.
And then, well, I already said it once. I don't want to hammer it home.
Rapes him.
So that happens in the previews, and then you're like, oh, well, that's why it was in the previews, because now he's gonna hang out with the prostitute instead of his wife. Also, this is the part where I start to see why some people might not like season 4, is we have the strike team being reassembled. And it's sort of a like, oh, well, I thought it was kind of cool that they had been dispersed, but now they're conveniently being pulled back together. However, Vic is under Monica's watchful eye. She knows what he's up to. He has to be better. And Shane is playing the part of Vic, but without Vic's family man morality, even though Shane is a family man now, it's sort of like a parallel Vic with Shane's edge, taking the graft
it's like
for a good cause.
It's like Shane is Vic without an anchor, right?
Yeah.
Because Vic ultimately tends to come back to a few ethical touchstones. And again, like the whole time I'm watching this show, I'm like, he's damned. He's damned. He murdered a man. He's damned. This is a show about a man who goes down for killing a coworker. But like all of a sudden weirdly seeing a worse version of Vic in Shane really sort of makes you like, well, I'd rather have, Lex Luthor than Bizarro. It's you find yourself.
I agree. Like Shane is a person who has an anchor in a family and now a child, but doesn't have the ethical touchstones, right? It doesn't have the limits. And so that anchor now becomes a justification for him to do anything because he's got to defend that. And we've already seen that with the money train, is that Shane is willing to go to any length. He'll steal from his friends in order to protect his wife's interests or who
or
was
his fiancés. Yeah. Man, so many things I want to say that I can't wait to talk to you as you move forward in the Shield. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Yeah, no, this is a good season, and I feel like it's a tighter season. It may not be as interesting as the Money Train was in season 3.
I think that in any 5 series or 5 episode, or is it 5 seasons or is it 7? 7 season arc, you've got to have a moment to draw a breath, and that's really what I think season 4 is. And I think they do a good job of adding interesting things that sort of give you a moment to let this other previous stuff simmer without pushing it too hard.
Kills it as Rawlings. I mean, it's apparent to me when Aceveda comes back that Aceveda's character was just not anywhere near as competent as Monica Rawlings.
Oh man, no, she's amazing, and
yeah, he is. He is somebody who you kind of think of as a little bit slimy, but trying to be the right guy. And then all of a sudden, when you see him next to Rawlings, you're like, oh, he's nothing.
Yeah, he's a child. He's a child just getting started. This is an actual cop who's got this job. I don't think this will be a surprise to you, but obviously Rawlings doesn't stick around for more than this season.
I would assume that they couldn't pay Glenn Close for that many seasons.
Yeah, for 3 more seasons to play a tertiary character. So she hogs the spotlight a little bit during this season and then vanishes. But do you know who comes in after this?
Well, you've told me Lawrence Fishburne.
No. Forrest Whitaker.
Or Forrest Whitaker,
yeah.
Sorry.
And so likewise.
There was an F in the person's name.
Yeah. So many things I want to say that would be inappropriate. But he brings a very different, character to it. I think Glenn Close was great, and I thought it can't get any better. I think Forrest Whitaker does even better. I think what he brings to it, you'll like even better.
Well, that's a spoiler, and this is Spoilerin time. So let's finish with some Spoilerin of Doctor Who. Okay, ask me your question, Brian.
Okay, so here's the thing. Like, I watched a lot of the Matt Smith episodes. I watched as they introduced Oswald Cobblepot, the chick who is a Dalek, but also a chick in the 1800s who's also a chick in the 1990s or whenever. And then, but they Matt Smith is like, well, that's curious that you're in all these places and are certainly the same person.
Girl.
What's that?
You're the impossible girl.
Yeah, sure.
But you couldn't be.
So what's up with their souffle, man? What's going on?
So Clara Oswald of the 21st century is the real Clara Oswald. And at the end of the season, I believe this is the last episode before the 50th anniversary episode. They find where the Doctor dies. They travel in time to the Doctor's own death, and where he has died, the TARDIS has lost its containment engine, and so is gargantuan and tall. And in the middle of it is a sort of remnant of the Doctor, which is called something that I can't recall, but it's essentially his time stream. And the only way, the bad thing about that is the great intelligence jumps into the time stream, which gives him access to the Doctor's entire life, and starts killing the Doctor and all the versions of the Doctor and eliminating him and changing time. And so all of a sudden, everybody starts to forget things that happened. People
real quick, time out. If aliens intercept any one minute snippet of communication in the history of mankind, I hope it's the last 1 minute, because there's no way that this would make sense to any external force whatsoever. Keep going though.
So anyway, the great intelligence is changing time. Strax forgets who Madame Vastra is and starts trying to shoot her. And there's only one way to save the universe, and that's for someone to jump in and stop the great intelligence. So Clara does. And when she does, she gets torn apart into all these different versions of herself that land in all these different time streams. So, for instance, Oswin Oswald, who ends up becoming a Dalek, is seen standing next to David Tennant at one point, saving him in New York. And then there's all these other versions of Clara that we never actually got to see until that episode.
Did they actually shoot stuff with
Doctors.
David Tennant, or did they just take archive footage of David Tennant and put it next to her?
Archive footage, yeah.
Oh, okay, all right.
They took archive footage of all of them. They show Patrick Troughton, the second Doctor, running down a beach, and Clara dressed in 60s gear running after him.
Oh, wow.
They do some cool special effects. But the idea is that she then, saves the Doctor in every era, but is torn apart into all these different versions of herself. And then the real Clara actually comes back and is saved from the time stream. But when she does, all of a sudden, the War Doctor is standing there, and that sets you up for the 50th anniversary.
And who's the War Doctor?
What's his face?
It's not a super famous guy. It's the one
super famous guy. I want to say John
Brito
Hurt.
McBritish.
Yeah, John Hurt.
Oh, whoa! John Hurt's the War Doctor?
Yeah.
Oh man, it is Brito McBritish. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Right on, dude. I feel like I need to see that special because I heard good things about it.
Yeah. Well, and so there you go. As Doctor Who goes, it's a pretty good explanation, I have to say.
Sure. Right on. Because
in the context of Doctor Who-ness, not in the context of being broadcast to aliens, out of context.
Fair enough. From now on, there's only questions, and I feel like there's not enough time for us to answer all the questions.
I'm here all night. You asked me to.
All right, well let's spare all of our fine viewers of Spoilerin time all my questions.
You can find us at Cordkillers.com. Spoilerin fans, we'll spoil you next time.
Spoilin'.
Spoiled.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.